Hi everyone. Adam from People Business here. In this presentation I wanted to highlight the relatively new bullying and harassment legislation and how it may impact business owners, managers and staff within your company. Serious cases of bullying and harassment can now be recognized as a criminal offense and prosecuted under the Crimes Act. So ensuring everyone in the organization understands what constitutes bullying and harassment is important. In this presentation we will look at what is and what is not bullying. We will also cover harassment, including sexual harassment, and importantly, some tips on how to resolve these issues in the workplace. So firstly, what is bullying? Workplace bullying is repeated and unreasonable behavior directed towards a worker or a group of workers that creates a risk to health and safety. So, a few words I have highlighted here are repeated, unreasonable, and a risk to health and safety. So the actions need to meet these three criteria to be regarded as bullying, which I'll expand on in a minute. Repeated behavior refers to the persistent nature of the behavior. Unreasonable behavior means exactly that. Behavior that a reasonable person, having regard for the circumstances, would see as unreasonable. So, to constitute bullying, the actions need to meet these three criteria. That doesn't mean that poor behavior that does not meet this definition is okay and shouldn't be called out. It just means that to be defined as bullying, it needs to meet this definition. Here are some examples of bullying. Some are well known, such as verbal abuse, intimidation, excluding or isolating a person. But others are not, such as giving worthless or menial tasks unrelated to the job. Also giving impossible tasks. So when setting KPIs or goals, it is important to take this into consideration. Other examples like practical jokes, deliberately ignoring a person's contributions, or withholding information, need to be repeated to be defined as bullying, but that doesn't mean isolated cases should be swept under the carpet, as we would always expect to have a respectful workplace, so these one-off instances should still be dealt with. So, what then isn't bullying? A single incident. So having an argument or a disagreement is not bullying. Also, a workplace conflict is not necessarily bullying. In fact, we have disagreements or low-level conflict all of the time at work. In fact, without it nothing would change, or improvements would not be made. Having said that, if not managed well, disagreements and low-level conflict may escalate to the point where it meets the definition of workplace bullying. So managing conflict well is very important. Reasonable management action is also not bullying, as long as it conducted in a reasonable manner. Some examples of reasonable management behavior include setting reasonable goals, rostering staff where the requirements are reasonable, choosing who to promote, performance managing a staff member, or giving him feedback, or restructuring the workplace. So remember, it's all about balance. Does the person feel offended, intimidated, or humiliated? Would a reasonable person have anticipated the behavior would offend, intimidate, or humiliate the person? Remember, intent is irrelevant. Here are some of the impacts of bullying on individuals. These impacts can be life-changing, so need to be avoided. Here are some of the impacts of bullying on the organization. Again, these are impacts that any organization would want to avoid. I just wanted to finish off on changes to legislation which commenced in Victoria but are now in all states. Serious cases of bullying can now be prosecuted under the Crimes Act. Brodie worked in a cafe in Glenferrie Road in Hawthorn in Melbourne, for those who know the area. Following relentless bullying by 3 other employees, Brodie committed suicide. The police were involved, and the cafe owner and the 3 individuals involved were fined quite large amounts. As a result, Brodie's law was enacted in Victoria in 2011, and since then similar legislation has been enacted in all other jurisdictions. So what can you do if you witness bullying? Try telling the bully to stop, if you can do so safely. Say, "Bullying is not okay. This isn't cool. Please stop." Shift the focus and redirect the bully away from the victim. Invite the victim to join you and include him, her in some of your activities. Also, don't hesitate in telling a manager. Finally, I want to outline harassment, as it is often confused with bullying. Harassment is any unwanted behavior that makes someone feel intimidated, degraded, humiliated, or offended. It can be verbal, non-verbal, physical, or psychological. Sexual harassment is a specific form of harassment which is defined as any unwanted or unwelcome sexual behavior, which makes a person feel offended, humiliated, or intimidated. Sexual harassment is not interaction, flirtation, or friendship which is mutual or consensual. It is important to remember that even if someone does not object to the behavior does not mean they are consenting. Sexual harassment is happening in the workplace when it is at work-related events, between people sharing the same workplace, or between colleagues outside of work. Importantly, just a single incident is enough to constitute sexual harassment, which is where it differs from bullying, as the behavior does not have to be repeated. Behavior can also be regarded as harassment if it offends someone else who is not the intended target, like someone overhearing a conversation. Here are some examples of sexual harassment. I am going to read all the dot points here, as I think it is important to gain an understanding of what can be considered sexual harassment. Intrusive questions or comments about a person's private life or the way they look. Sexually suggestive behavior, such as leering or staring. Brushing up against someone, touching, fondling, or hugging. Sexually suggestive comments or jokes. Displaying offensive screensavers, photos, calendars, or objects. Repeated unwanted requests to go out. Requests for sex. Sexually explicit posts on social networking sites. Insults or taunts of a sexual nature. Sending sexually explicit emails or text messages. Inappropriate advances on social networking sites. Behavior that may also be considered to be an offense under criminal law, such as physical assault, indecent exposure, sexual assault, stalking, or obscene communications. Here is the process we recommend if you would like to resolve a bullying or harassment issue. First, try to state your objection directly to the person concerned. If this does not resolve the issue, or if you feel uncomfortable in doing this, then refer the matter to the relevant manager. If appropriate, they should initiate an investigation into the matter. This may include interviewing witnesses or gathering other information. The person, the subject of the complaint, will be provided with details of the allegations against him and given an opportunity to respond to those allegations. In all cases, confidentiality should be maintained to only those people directly involved. So, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions on this topic, or any other HR issue you would like to discuss, don't hesitate in reaching out. We also provide a free HR health check which covers compliance to the Fair Work Act, so contracts, HR policies and processes, etc. So let us know if we can assist in looking over these documents or processes as well. Thank you again and see you next time.